Set. Good morning. Mike Merrill, County Administrator, Hillsborough County. And I have with me today a number of folks who are going to be speaking. We have Fire Rescue Chief Jones, Director of Emergency Management Preston Cook. Sheriff Chad Chronister will hopefully be joining us. He's not here now. Public Works Director John Lyons, Hart CEO Catherine Egan, School Superintendent Jeff Eakins, and Commissioner Pat Kemp. Oh, and I'm sorry, also a representative from FEMA, Drew, welcome. Before I begin, though, I just would like us to just take a moment of silence. It's easy to forget that this is 9/11, and about this time back then is when the first attacks occurred. So I know there's a national moment of silence at this time. So just to pause for a moment, please. Thank you. So the brunt of the storm has passed Hillsborough County, and we are very grateful and very fortunate, and are keeping in our thoughts and prayers those counties that did not fare so well. But we can be very blessed that we ended up where we ended up. It was a very long night for our community, and very long night here at the Emergency Operations Center, but we have made it through and we're ready to move forward. So the most important thing for residents right now is to stay inside. I know when they look outside, it appears that everything is fine. Our crews have been out, fire rescue, public works, sheriff have been out since early this morning doing assessments. We have not yet completed those assessments, so we really want people to just err on the side of caution and try to stay off the roads. There have been reports of downed trees, as you would expect, and power lines. TECO has been side by side with us, repairing those lines. We're also we expect to continue to get wind gusts of up to 45 miles per hour, so the wind will shift on folks, and that could create some additional danger. There is the possibility of flooding, so we managed to avoid the serious concern that we had of storm surge. And actually, in the National Weather Service call this morning, they told us there was a negative storm surge of a foot, which is pretty amazing. But with the rainfall, we are going to see some inland river flooding, Little Manatee River area, as well as the Alafaya River. So we'll keep you posted on that. We have had resources poised throughout the county, as we told you yesterday, to be ready for the recovery and the damage assessment. That's where our partners from FEMA are going to be very helpful. We've prepared and we're ready with people and equipment throughout the area. As we go through assessments and determine that it's safe, we'll begin to release folks from shelters. We know that it's been a struggle for them, and we really appreciate the fact that our residents did heed the call and did go to shelters. The storm could just as easily have taken a different turn at the last minute. So I'm very proud of our community that we've done that. At this time, TECO is reporting roughly 300,000 outages, which is less than half of what they had expected. They've deployed the resources to begin restoring power, and our utility water system is operational, it's pressurized, and it is safe for all of our customers to use our water. We gave away hundreds of thousands of sandbags, so I believe that was very helpful. More than any other storm ever, over 300,000 sandbags. Tens of thousands of evacuees from our community as well as surrounding communities took refuge in our storm at our shelters. Our shelters have functioned very well. We've been able to keep up with the pace. Anybody who needed to be sheltered was sheltered, even if they showed up at the last minute. So I do want to recognize and thank all of our volunteers, first responders, and staff who've worked so hard to keep everyone in our community safe. We've had more than 300 people manning 45 emergency shelters that house nearly 29,000 evacuees, including more than 1,200 special needs clients. There were hundreds of dedicated volunteers and staff from the county and many partners who worked to keep our residents safe. And I honestly don't know how Preston Cook and Chief Jones are still standing, but they've done a great job. So we know that the full extent of the damage is yet to be assessed. It could have been much worse. And as we begin to recover, we'll be able to release some assets to our neighbors that are less fortunate. So we dedicated this building that you're in February, which is pretty amazing timing, actually. I think it passed the first test very well, and really, had we been in the other facility, we would not have fared as well as we did in this facility. It's an amazing place, amazing people. I just hope we don't have to do this again for a very long time. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our staff and partners to provide some more specifics, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions. So I'll begin with Fire Rescue Chief Jones. Dennis?
Chief Jones, Dennis Jones, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue. First, I want to say thank you for taking a moment to remember the Patriot Day, and also today we want to do an act of kindness for someone else, and what a great day to do that. We have gone back on the streets early this morning around 5 o'clock a.m. We did a complete assessment of the county from our stations that are embedded throughout the community. So we had a really good idea of the condition of the community before we ever started rolling. We had these tactical search and rescue teams that have gone throughout the county as well, and especially in the level A evacuation areas. Our stations that had to evacuate are now moving back into their homes so that they're there as the community begins to move back. We're not encouraging to do that yet. We heard the numbers about the TICO residents. We have about a third of our stations that are without power and on generator power, but they're still able to function. All of our apparatus are back on the street, and we brought all of our personnel in, all 3 shifts, and we are hoping now by noon that we can release the 2 extra shifts and go back to normal operations, thankfully, because the storm was of much less intensity than we expected. The the search and rescue teams that have gone out have found approximately a dozen trees that have fallen on homes, causing total destruction of those homes. Only about a dozen, which is a very small number when you consider the 900 square miles that we've covered. None of those had any fatalities involved, so that's all good news. The thing that we're finding most are trees down, power lines down. TICO is embedded with us, and they're taking care of that as we go along. Trees across roadways, and we're cutting those trees and moving them as we go as well. No major arterial roadways were damaged or were blocked, so we've been thankful for that. We are also retaining some boat crews, especially in the southeast county for the Alafaya and the Little Manatee River, as we expect the flooding to continue, the rivers to rise. During the period that we were not running, we had 260 calls that were held. We have already cleared all of those calls and are back onto normal 911 operation and responding to every call as they come along. And again, I want to repeat that we had very little damage. No major damage was found at this point, and we're very thankful for the community for responding to the request that we gave them to get out of the areas that needed to be evacuated, shelter in place. As an emergency responder, it's very heartening to see the community respond the way they did, and thank you for that.
Good morning. As you've heard, we've had some impacts. It definitely could have been worse, but we still have a little work to do. We're still working here in the Emergency Operations Center to complete those recovery actions that we'll be having to start soon. But we're doing those initial responses that the chief mentioned, as well as looking at what we need to take care of in the hours to come. As you see, the wind is still blowing somewhat out there. It's not done yet. Those gusts of 30, 40 mile per hour winds, they could be dangerous. The roadways could be dangerous. Please, the message is still for everyone to stay safe. Very proud of the residents of this community. They did take heed to what we said. We sheltered a lot of people. Now we have to start that process of getting those folks back to home, but we can't do that until the roads are clear, till the power's back up for those that are electric dependent and those types of things. So we want to make sure that we do this in a process that keeps everyone safe, but also make sure that we can do it effectively and timely. Now, we know that we received from 6 to 9 inches of rain. We didn't get all the storm surge, but we did get some rain. We know the rivers that we're talking about are going to start flooding. If the graphic can come here, show the graphic, we need to realize that these rivers are going to rise very rapidly. With this rain coming, they're going to go up very fast. And we're talking about some of these rivers going up to potentially some record levels. And so we want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. Not only do we have the trees down, the power lines, and the issues that we have on the roads, but river flooding is going to be a concern. We need people to be aware that today these rivers are going to rise very rapidly and they're going to stay up for a few days. It's not just going to be a very fast event in that regard, right, in terms of the flooding. As you've heard, we do have equipment stationed and positioned in areas throughout the county to assist our residents that may be impacted, but we want everyone to be aware that this is a possibility and they need to be safe. So with that, again, I just echo what you've heard today, and I'm very proud of all of the folks that are working in this building, working as a part of this entire team for Hillsborough County. We just want everyone to know we still have a little ways to go. It's not done yet, and let's make it to the end of the road. Thank you.
Good morning. Our crews in the Public Works Department are out deployed right now inspecting the roadway system and the stormwater systems in our bridges and traffic signals. We have over 550 traffic signals. Some of those are without power right now, so the intersections are dark. Everyone needs to be cautious if they're out and about. There are some instances of roadway flooding and also trees within the roads. Our primary focus now is to make sure that the roads are passable for emergency vehicles. The secondary response will be associated with getting the roads cleared and back to normal. We would ask that anybody that has to be out to use caution, particularly in the intersections or if there's water across the roads, to do that, but our folks will be out responding, inspecting all day. We'll also be inspecting bridges to make sure that there's no damage there in case of any isolated flooding conditions in those locations as well.
Good morning. It's time to go home. So if we took you to a shelter, we are going to get you home. Let's be patient, but we'll get you home. Again, the first order of the day is safety. So as our partners are assessing the roads to make sure they're passable, teams of folks at Heart are assessing our facilities and fleet. We will get our evacuation services on the road as quickly as we can today. Our target is noon. Don't hold us to it. Clearly, we want our staff family to be safe. They're assessing their homes and making sure it's safe for them to come in. We will be operating our evacuation routes. If you have evacuated to a shelter, please speak to the sheriff's staff at that shelter and let them know you're looking for Heart or Sunshine Line to get you home. If you used Sunshine Line, take this time to assess your checkout procedures. Remember, you don't just leave. You need to let the shelter staff know that you are gone. Also assess where you are going. If you need electricity, if you need oxygen, and you are transported to your house and there's a tree there, we can't get you in. We're working on what our fallback plan is for folks who want to go home from a shelter, especially a special needs shelter, and home is not the place they can go, but we will get you somewhere safely. We will take you home. And to chime in, I want to thank everybody here, but especially the chief and the superintendent for keeping my family safe. Thank you.
It is our pleasure, Catherine. Well, I think the word for the day around here is assessment. I think that's exactly what we're going to be doing over the next few hours across the school district. We're going to be assessing all of our schools for potential structural damage, water intrusion, just some of those basic safety issues across our facilities. We will also be looking at things such as, roads, getting our buses safely to pick up children ultimately when we open up for school. I'll be having a full staff meeting today at 3 p.m. We'll have all the data in at that point in time, so we'll be able to have a better assessment at that point in time to know if we are going to proceed any further with any more days off for school. We have to consider a few other things in a school district. We have 25,000 employees. Many of them have evacuated the area. We know that's exactly where they've evacuated, is where the storm is moving. So there's going to be some challenges for some of our faculty. We're going to ask them to check in at some point over the next 24 hours with their site-based principal in order to see exactly how we'll be able to staff our schools. We want to make sure they're safe. We also want to make sure they're learning when they're there. So we'll be gauging that as well. I'll also be working with neighboring superintendents so that we can also be gauging our decision-making and aligning with the needs of our region, not just Hillsborough County. Most likely, I'll be making a decision tonight or early tomorrow morning if we feel like we need to extend out to provide a little bit more time for our families to return, for our employees to return, and for any of those conditions at our schools to be obviously taken care of if there are any damages there. We do know, as I said yesterday, it's important for a school district for us to open back up our schools. It is a sign that we are returning to normal as a community. In this last 24 to 48 hours, have been nothing has been quite abnormal. So we want to make sure that we have that reassurance to the community that we're ready to go, but we want to do it safely, we want to do it right. And of course, families, I want you to just be reassured. We understand if you have evacuated, you may not be able to get back to that very first day when we do decide to bring our students back to school. We'll work with families at every site for excused absences, just to understand that. We also understand with employees that might be a challenge. You'll work directly with your site-based principal on how we coordinate coverage and so forth at our schools. Families, just watch out for your children over the next few days. They've had a lot of anxiety over the last several days, and that'll probably carry forward a little bit. So we just ask that you look for those things as well. We'll have tremendous student services staff available, counselors at our schools as our students return to make sure that they get exactly what they need for support. And finally, I just once again can't thank, as we've already said, the staff that have been out in our schools and our shelters over the last 48 hours. You've done a yeoman's work, just tremendous job. Couldn't be any more prouder as a superintendent that our principals, that our custodial staff, our student nutrition managers, our security staff, and all of our employees that came in to volunteer, just incredibly grateful. I know I saw out on social media a lot of posts about a time when we're all dealing with a lot of fear and anxiety, that you were really providing comfort out there for our families and even lightening the mood a little bit as we got through a very tough time in this community. So I'm just incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Good morning, Sherry Jacobs, Tampa Electric. Tampa Electric has about 300,000 customers without power right now. That's roughly 40% of our customers across our territory: Hillsborough, Polk, a little bit of Pasco, and Pinellas. We have crews in the field right now assessing damage, repairing lines, restoring power as we can. Now, assessment today will be from the ground and from the air. And restoration will continue till folks are all back on and have their power back. We know that's a key to getting life back to normal. Big question from all our customers right now: when will my power be restored? That is exactly what we're looking at right now. We're doing a full assessment across our territory so we can get a good idea of what we're dealing with, and then we'll be able to let folks know when their power will be restored. One safety tip I'd like to point out: as the sun is up now, folks are assessing their property to see what kind of damage they have. I'm asking our customers to please be aware of your surroundings. Look for power lines. If there is a line that is down, assume it's a power line and assume that it is live. Stay away from it. Keep your neighbors away from it, your pets away from it. Call us or call 911. It's treated as an emergency. It also can energize any standing water in your neighborhood, so please just be aware of your surroundings and be careful out there.
Good morning, Hillsborough County Commissioner Pat Kemp, and I feel, I'm sure, like everyone in this room here today, blessed that we had far fewer impacts than we had anticipated. I think we really dodged a bullet. Nonetheless, I think our planning was incredible and how this county geared up, and everyone today, thank you so much. It was just amazing job. Preston Cook, our emergency, Mike Merrill, our county administrator. Thank you. It was just wonderful. Chief Jones, the schools, Jeff Eakley, and Catherine Egan with the heart, Tico. We have just had such an incredible operation here. I spent the night at the center here, as I know many of the press did, and we want to thank you all too, because you've gotten the word out to people and let them know what the situation is. And I was kind of amazed when I came in at 3 and went through here. I didn't know the press slept on the floor right here. So thank you all for getting through the night like that. This morning I was out for a couple hours with our fire rescue, and was kind of amazed to see how clear the roadways seem to be, how little debris, how few wires. This is not a recommendation for you to go out. They're still doing assessments at this time. The flooding seemed to be minimal. And as you all know, we really, the surrounding counties the surrounding areas seem to have gotten hit much harder. I think my own neighborhood of Seminole Heights in Tampa was the worst place I saw. And it wasn't, I saw several down trees there, and it wasn't the worst. But what has been done in planning by this county with this operation, with everyone working together, it's just incredible to think that we sheltered 29,000 people in this county. And as I pointed out the other day, we are as large in population as 8 different states. We have a land size, the state of Rhode Island, equal to the state of Rhode Island, and 1.4 million people. I also think the community response was amazing. They took this very seriously. They needed to take it very seriously. We're very lucky that the impacts were minimal, but people, I think, really responded and made sure that they were safe. I heard so many stories about people taking care of their neighbors, really one of the most important things, because there's just not, no matter how many volunteers and excellent staff you have and how many capable, caring people that you have, it takes a community to go out and do that, and to be caring about their neighbors and the senior people around and people that needed special help and assistance. But I'd just like to thank again. It was an excellent job. I am so awed and impressed by the county effort and the protective effort and the planning and everything that went on here. So thank you so much.
All right, with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Has the danger or the concern about storm surge, that has subsided significantly at this point, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, the storm has passed us. We're, as I said, negative storm surge, so we're good there.
So when is it that you would like people can go outside, or is there a estimate how long it's gonna take to assess the damage? Is it gonna be today? Is it gonna be evening?
Well, it's ongoing, but I mean, I think from what we're seeing, midday, early afternoon, we should be in pretty good shape. And we'll announce a release.
What about the people who are in shelters?
Mhm.
If their homes are damaged and they can't go back home, will those shelters, or will there be a specific one that will stay open to help them out until they are able to go home?
For those folks, yes, absolutely, they can remain in shelters. Hopefully, as the chief said, we've really only encountered a handful of homes that were completely destroyed. But yeah, as long as folks still need help, we're there for them.
Was there a particular area where the most damage, although there wasn't a lot of damage, occurred, or was it sporadic throughout the state?
It seemed to be mostly on the east side of the county, not so much on the west, and kind of the Brandon and South area on the east.
Yes.
Can you talk about the timing around the flooding concerns in the rivers and who might be affected and what to look out for?
Sure, Preston, do you have that?
Well, we're still working and have been working with our GIS units, with our public works units, again, to be able to stage units in those general areas. But As we've gotten the amounts of rain, actual amounts of rain, we're looking at the gauges this morning. We're talking about the Hillsborough River really, again, starting to go up this afternoon and looking like it may get to 15 feet or 15.6, which is really over the record of 15.3, which is there. So that's a possibility for us in the northeast part of the county there. We're talking about the Cypress Creek getting to 14.4, which is over the 13.8 record. That's as a major flood stage. So again, some significant flooding possible for these gauges, for these rivers here in these areas. The Little Manatee, maybe not reaching record, but getting up to 18 foot, that's still a major, flood stage. Over the next, getting up pretty soon today and staying up for a day or so or some time. We don't know when it'll recede. And also the Alafaya, getting up to 22 foot is the projected height for a major flood over the 19-foot level that starts at major. So some significant issues, potential issues that we're talking about here. And that's why we really want folks to understand that, yes, we've gotten through the hurricane, but these additional impacts that we talked about over and over, we don't want people to have gotten through this part and then get hurt and injured at this point. As we're going into the recovery, we want them to stay safe, stay vigilant, be aware of their surroundings. Everything that you've heard here, it's about keeping our community safe. We're doing all that we can. Our residents have to do their part. So,
If I could and just to follow up on that, we are going to keep our water rescue teams active throughout the day and in the days ahead. We're along with emergency management, looking at the river levels with GIS and making sure that the threat is gone before we pull our units off the street for that. So we're prepared to deal with that. And it's the Little Manatee and the Alafaya River in the southeast county. And the residents along those areas have had this experience before. It's just a little bit more than what they're used to. And we're prepared to deal with it until the threat is abated.
For those with down branches and trees near them, is there a time frame on when waste facilities are open or brush sites they can take it to?
Good question. John?
So today, on the residential side, we're not collecting trash, recycling, or yard waste. We're in communication with our contractors now to try to stand up that operation. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more yard waste, debris, branches, those type of things, and we're assessing that right now and working on a plan to potentially open up some of the debris management sites for folks to be able to bring that. We should know something this afternoon and be able to announce that, what the next steps are.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your support as well. Have a good day.